everyone. Welcome to the Science Show Curiosity presented by Young Academy of India. I'm Professor Felix. I'm talking to you from an iconic location right here in the central Delhi. Any guesses? Right here, backside, you can see that building, very fantastic, and it's a beautiful day here. So the late autumn here in Northern Hemisphere, isn't it? So this is episode number 49 of the Curiosity. This is November. As usual, let us see the etymology of the word November. The Nava, it's actually coming from Sanskrit, our own language, isn't it? Nava means number nine. So, as you know, Sanskrit belongs to a very large family, Indo-European or Indo-Aryan rather. And yes, so if you look at the traditionally the etymology of it, it's coming from Latin. Novem means number nine. So it's just like the earlier 2 months, September, October, just like that. Early days, in Roman days, right, 500 BC, according to the Roman calendar, the year used to have just 10 months, So, yeah, that is what, right, this used to be the ninth month, so that is why November, that word comes from. And as for the florography, November is the month of chrysanthemum, beautiful flower, isn't it? So, what moved the sciences in last month? So that is what we start the show with, right? First is about the last month. The main news of the last month has been the declaration of the Nobel Prizes, right? And the biggest Nobel Prizes in physiology of medicine went for the inventors rather of the mRNA vaccines. The COVID vaccine, right? So the physiology of medicine is basically to the Kathleen Calico and Drew Weissman. So Calico's story is really inspiring. She is from University of Pennsylvania, and the university has been demoting her for quite some time. She didn't even get the tenure. Tenure is like regular position, right? So that is really unfortunate. And even the university declared her as unfit as a faculty position. Look at her. And finally, she ended up winning this Nobel Prize. That is amazing, isn't it? And yes, so the next is chemistry. Chemistry goes for the quantum dots. So basically, these are nanostructure, and based on the size of this nanostructure, when you actually excite with the photons, that is light, it start emitting different colors. So basically, the quantum dot, to see the quantum dots, just go to the nearest electronic shop, right? Near in your city, you check out the QLED, the TVs, right? QLED is all about the quantum dots, the red. So basically, the structure, the size of the crystals, the nano crystal, when it's really big, you will get a higher wavelength like the red. While the crystal size, if it becomes really small, then you are going to get the blue, right? So the discoverer of this one is Maungi Bawendi, very interesting person. He is actually from Tunisia, very very small country, a former French colony in the northern Africa, right? It is basically Mediterranean coast of the Africa, yeah. So, and Louis Bruce and Alexei Ekimov from the Russia, yeah. So, and now coming to physics, it's actually for the invention of the electron, right? So, how do you visualize inside the electron? That is really interesting. So you can visualize this electron, even atom, right? Atom and even the electrons, you can visualize by extremely tiny, too fast light, right? Extremely tiny fractions of the second. So yeah, it is basically, what do you call the atom scale of the time, right? Atomic second, that is exact term for in the physics. So atomic second means one atomic second is equal to, like the entire universe, right? The history of the universe, the how long the universe is, around 13 billion years, right? So 13 billion, 1 second divided by 13 billion, how tiny that fraction is. So just that is this particular, so this time scale. So these people, the three, the trio won the Nobel Prize for their invention of this technology to study the structure of the atoms and especially the electrons. And that's it for the sciences. Now we also have three other Nobel Prize. Peace goes to Narges Mohammadi. She was a jailed Iranian journalist for standing up with the democratic principles, right? Economics is for the Claudia Golden for the women's pay, that is salary structure of the women, right? There is a gender gap in salary of man and women. So her work revealed more on this gender gap, right? And then finally, literature prize goes to the Norwegian writer John Fosse. honestly, I've never heard this name before or never read, of course, any of his books. So, whose major works include, Boat House, published in 1989, it's a novel, and another series of novel, Melancholy number 1 and 2, published in 1995 and 1996. Of course, I'm looking forward to reading these books. So, yeah, let's wait and see. I'll share my review here with you. So 2023 Nobel Prize winners by their nationality, of course, both these nations claim, right? The nation of birth as well as nation of the work, when the Nobel Prize was won. Just like our Venkatraman Ramakrishnan, right? He was born here in India. We take credit of his Nobel Prize. At the same time, he won the Nobel Prize when he was in the United States, right? So this time to US back the maximum number of Nobel Prize, 7 Nobel Prize winners, and Austria won 2, one, Austria won 1, and then France 3, Germany 1, Hungary 2, then Iran won. Iran is the only Asian country winning the Nobel Prize this time, right? Norway won, Russia won, Sweden won, and as I told you, Tunisia, such a small, country in the Africa, won 2 Nobel Prize this year. Very interesting, isn't it? Next story is about the reproducibility. There is a very interesting article, rather it is basically a statistical study on 246, the biologists. They shared this data to a very large group, one data set they shared with large number of biologists to analyze it. And of course, they did with the different kinds of analysis, different parameters, for instance, different confidence interval, that is p-value, cutoff p-value, threshold p-value, right? And then they got 256 results. Each one got different result from the exactly same data set. That is going to be very alarming, friends. That is a question on the reproducibility of the data set, right? That's really bad news, of course, right? And another news is about chimpanzees. Chimpanzees recently discovered to be having menopause too. The end of the menstrual cycle, right? So menopause is something to do with after menopause, why the individuals live. So till date, we thought only the human beings had this menopause. Yes, so there is a very famous hypothesis in evolutionary biology called grandmother hypothesis. So basically, we live. That is basically the ladies after menopause live because they want to support their granddaughters. So that is the hypothesis. So probably that is also applicable for chimpanzees. And another news is rather a personal good news, is that I'm part of now the governing committee of the International Science Council's Asia Pacific focal committee. So there has been a meeting held in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, where I went. Last time the Curiosity was recorded in the Penang Island, right, the Georgetown of Malaysia. So I went over there and I won it, right? So I'm part of the, governing committee. So I'm really hopeful of contributing more to the governing committee of the International Science Council. So I'm looking forward for the new responsibility entrusted on my shoulders. Okay, so I'll do share, my experience with them. Yeah. Now coming to the discovery, so please check out the links of all the show notes of this episode is there in the show notes. So there is one blog, Medium blog. So over there you can just click on to all these links, okay, including that IAC's press release of my selection in it. So the blog post also do contain a cover image of every month's Curiosity. So this month's cover image is a fantastic time-lapse image taken by Sanil Sansar, one of the members of the Young Academy of India. I shared that in the Young Academy of India's Facebook page. Please check out Annular Eclipse. In the US, last episode I covered detail what this annular, why it is significant. Please check out that too. Now coming to the discovery, the first one is about the potential rabies treatment by F11 antibodies. That is amazing news. The reason is that rabies is so prevalent. The stray dogs and stray animals rather are very common across the developing countries, right? And so of course, in case the rabies virus gets into your central nervous system, either on your backbone or here on your brain, right? That's it. Right now, there is no cure for rabies virus, and this is the only potential cure now, and it needs a lot of investment. Unfortunately, rabies is not at all present in developed countries, rich countries. I'm really skeptical who is going to fund this kind of research. You know, so we really need a global common. You know, so we really need this global southern common, the south countries, come together to fund this research. That is going to be very very interesting. That another next story is the effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccine in Japan. They did the study in Japan, so and they found that 97 percentage of the mortality has been saved, right? So yeah, so it reduced the mortality rate by 97 percentage. That is in 2021 alone. That's going to be a very interesting story. That is indeed right. So it is about the COVID, the efficacy of the COVID-19 vaccine. The third story is the first time researchers have found that Alzheimer's symptoms can be transferred to the healthy organism by the gut microbiome. That is basically the fecal transplantation. That is, again, that is really interesting as well as alarming. So that means that role of gut microbiome on the Alzheimer's disease. Basically, what the scientists did is that Alzheimer's positive mouse, they took the feces and then they introduced the feces into the healthy mice, by the oral route, and then this healthy mouse developed the Alzheimer's, basically the beta amyloid protein in the brain. You see, that is what the involvement of the gut microbiome in it, right? Next story is about quite similar about the Candida albicans, very common fungal infection in human beings, right? The Candida, when it gets into the brain, unfortunately, it again causes the amyloid, beta amyloid protein. So it's basically linked with Alzheimer's disease. That is really alarming. The Candida infections, we really need to pay more attention not to get this kind of infection, the Candida infection. Of course, Candida albicans is a part of so many infections in human being associated with, for instance, the tooth cavities and the plaques, of extremely minute plaques in the pulmonary vessels. The blood clots leading to the atherosclerosis, as well as the gut microbial modulation to eat us. That it lets us to eat more sugar, right, and leads to a lot of metabolic syndromes like diabetes and cancer too. So that is why it's very interesting and alarming news. Next story, the fifth story is that millions of Americans might have the cognitive, disorders, basically cognitive decline, but they don't know it. You know, so yeah, so it's something like your own body odor. You will not understand, right? You will not recognize it, isn't it? And there is a very famous disease called Annon's disease that even blind people think that they are not blind unless someone tells you that you are blind, right? So this is very very alarming story. Many people are living with dementia and Alzheimer's and they don't know about it. Even doctors are not paying much attention to it. And yeah, so that signifies the importance of going for annual blood checkup and annual health checkup, rather a thorough health checkup, especially for older adults, right? And I've covered this topic so many times in Curiosity about why driving is really dangerous for people with dementia. you know so again, that highlights the importance of the annual checkup, I would say. And adults with ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactive disorder, are more prone for developing Alzheimer's later in their life. So maybe also autism. Autism and ADHD are quite similar diseases. No, of course there are distinct differences, and yeah, this is pretty interesting. And yeah, so do watch out in case unfortunately you have been detected with ADHD. So you have to take adequate precautions to delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease. Seventh story, the young children. So some stories about the parenting. Young children who are very close to their parents are more likely to end up being more pro-social later in their life, like kindness, empathy, conscientiousness. That is very very interesting. So how close the kids are towards their parents. Eighth story is that the babies learn to imitate others because they are being imitated by their parents younger in their life. Very interesting, isn't it? The more a mother is sensitive to and imitated her 6-month-old child, the greater the child's ability at age 18 months to imitate others. That is pretty interesting. That the kids, they feel that okay, their gestures, somebody is there to listen and imitate, right? That is pretty interesting. And another story is about again the parenting. fat talk by the mothers to their her daughters, right? So yeah, fat talk is that you're kind of sublimely shaming your daughters about how fat the daughter is. That is going to have negative outcomes later in their life. That is what this paper is all about, right? So it creates problems for the daughter's body's satisfaction and even cause future disordered eating. That is really tough circumstance. So avoid fat shaming or even fat talk by mothers. So of course this is about mothers to their daughter. I would say that it's same for both the parents, right? The father to the kid's son or daughter could be the same conclusions. We are not even sure about it, right? And the 10th story is a little bit on the politics, American politics here. Conservatives are less likely to purchase perfect fruits and vegetables that are abnormal in shape. I have seen this, the phenomenon quite often in Japan. The Japanese people have an innate tendency, an ordinance to purchase, the perfectly shaped, right? They like this perfection, right? Imperfect fruits, they don't really like it. So many imperfect fruits are disposed of in farms. Very, very bad tendency, right? That leads to, of course, the global food crisis and hunger crisis, whatnot. So these conservatives in the US, right, are less likely to purchase the imperfect fruits and vegetables. Pretty interesting. Another related story is about the cryptocurrency. The investment of cryptocurrency and the popularity of cryptocurrency is also linked with American conservatism. So conservatives are more likely to transact in the cryptocurrency. Very interesting, right? I have no idea why it is so. The 11th story, the scientists found the microplastics deep inside, a cave closed for the public decades ago. That is very, very interesting. In Missouri, there has been a cave since 1993. Nobody ever went out there. It's completely closed for the public. And they did the assessment and they found lots of microplastics in it. So that shows how pervasive this problem is, right? How cosmopolitan these microplastics are devastating the environment. Last episode of the Curiosity, I covered why microplastics are even detected, in the clouds. Right? It's everywhere, friends. Right? So yeah, forever chemicals too. So we have to lead a sustainable lifestyle. One of the focus of this channel. Yes, the 12th story is that the world may have crossed a tipping point for the solar power use. So now that it's an exciting story. I'm really happy to read that. Now that more than 50% of the whole power generation is coming from solar. So that is very interesting. So not the fossil fuel. Of course, it's not the same all over the world. For instance, Germany, right? Most of the power in Germany coming from coal. Unfortunately, it is still with the coal, right? While the France is just opposite, it's nuclear. But all over the world, it is solar, 50% and more than that, right? So the fossil fuel is now gone, right? It's very, very exciting story. Scientists propose sweeping new law of the nature. That is also very interesting. INAS paper, which I read with a lot of interest. Well, I find that this paper is kind of an extension to the Darwin's theory of natural selection to the universe, right? So yeah, sweeping new law of the universe, I think it's kind of an exaggeration. It's basically the Darwin's law. You might know what that law is. In a nutshell, it's about the natural selection. That there are so many variants, and some variants are more fit than others because these are adaptive variants. And these variables or variants survive to reproduce better, and that they transmit these genes or genetic variants, that is SNPs, to the next generation. Are you getting that point? So basically, some of us, all of us are different, and some of these differences are contributing to your mate selection and successful reproduction. And those variables, so those differences are accumulated over the time. So this particular theory is something called law of increasing fundamental information. So it is not merely for the organic evolution, but also for everything, be it computer virus or the entire universe, how the universe evolved towards the increasing fundamental information. It's kind of a fun philosophical approach to the Darwin's theory to make it much bigger, right from quantum all the way to the universe. Yeah, it's pretty interesting paper, though I don't want to call it as theory of everything that many of the journalists are calling it as a theory of everything, not really. And another interesting story is about a radio burst that has been detected in Australia. Some of the radio telescopes, gigantic telescope, they detected this pulse of radio waves. It's actually coming from 8 billion years ago. 8 billion light years. That is the distance, right? So that is really far. It's almost like the other side of the universe, right? Other side exactly is around 13, right? 13 billion is the other side of the universe. So anyways, 8 billion is really long distance, right? That is actually could able to detect it. That's very interesting. And the 15th story is about the pedagogy, right? So of course right now there is a tendency of distrust in everything, right? Because of the social media, everybody is an expert. So everybody thinks they have an immense distrust to the science. One of the focal point of the International Science Council Public Value of Science program, in which I'm a panelist, an expert panelist. So the public trust in science is eroding, unfortunately, and so as public trust in politics or whatever be, right? Everything is kind of eroding. So as these parents, right, are teaching these essence to their kids not to trust anything blindly, so the kids end up not trusting the teachers in the class, right? So then how to overcome this distrust in the classroom? So one of good strategy is something called double addressing. So instead of saying it as a universal truth to the students, pick up one of the student and say, tell him or her the whatever the fact or concept that you would like to say, and share with all the rest of the class, right? Of course you're telling in the class in public. So that is one form of addressing. Another form of addressing is just opposite. Tell all the class that please tell this boy or a girl in the class to what the concept is all about, or what the fact is all about, right? So there is something called the double addressing. And 16th story is about AI is all around the world, right? So it is transforming every single thing that you can think of. Translation, but this one is a very interesting archaeological translation of the tablets of the cuneiform. 5,000 years old cuneiform tablets are being translated by the AI. Very exciting, isn't it? So a few months back, last month basically, I went to Kolkata with my mother, and in Kolkata there is a very nice spot near the Vidyasagar Setu. It's called Prinsep Ghat, James Prinsep Ghat, and that Ghat is named after James Prinsep. He was also a similar archaeological translator. He is credited for translating Pali script, ancient Buddhist script of India, right, to English. So first time decrypting the Pali script is credited to the James Prinsep. Very interesting. And the final story of the this month's curiosity is about cognitive dissonance. Even if you expose people with different point of view or new information, they will not take it, they will not accept it, right? So I would rather not learn or not know. That kind of tendency, this study is about that tendency, right? So why do we choose not to learn, right? If basically this the investigator, they have asked lots of people that how your actions are going to affect others. For instance, if you're a boss and if you're shouting your employer in front of all others, how it's going to have negative impact on the employer's psychological well-being, right? So psychological safety, a topic which we covered in curiosity so many times, right? So so if you do this survey, the survey includes so many people, and if you say like why your actions are going to impact others, 40% of the respondents decided that I would rather not know about it. They want to live in their positive mindset to improve your the what do you call the egotist mindset, isn't it? The self-image. Yeah. So yeah, that's really tough. I mean, this is a major obstacle that science communicators have to uh, you know have to uh, obfuscate, right? So yes, so that's very interesting paper which I found very interesting. And of course, do please check out our Facebook page. The link is in the show notes for so many other stories that my, the moderators of the group, Young Academies moderator, are sharing. Okay, so please do check it out. And coming next part of the curiosity is about the observances, right? In the next month, what are the science-related observances? And astronomy, right? The third is Jupiter opposition. That's the best day to spot or click a picture of Jupiter. Fourth is Southern Torrid Meteor Shower. Fifth is the World Tsunami Awareness Day. The UN Tsunami Awareness Day is fifth. Ninth is International Week of Science and Peace. So basically the Science Day, World Science Day, the biggest day for the science. That is in the, and also the Berlin Science Week, or on the 5th of this basically the November. And also the 5th of November is also Moon Venus conjunction, same frame, both Venus and Moon will be in. Okay, so that is what the so all these were, and 9th, I'm sorry, it's on 9th of November. Okay, not 5th, it's not 9th. 10th is Science Day for Peace and Development, 9th or 10th. So some years it's on 9th, this year it's on 10th, the Science Day. 11th is Northern Torrid Meteor Shower. 12th is 13th. 13th is the Antibiotic Awareness Day, as well as the best day to spot the Uranus, the blue planet. Tiny blue planet Uranus, right? So Uranus at the opposition is on 13th. 14th is World Diabetes Day, UN Day for the World Diabetes Day. Yeah. 17th is the Philosophy Day, World Philosophy Day is on 17th. 18th is Leonid Meteor Shower. 19th is World Toilet Day. Awareness about the hygiene and personal hygiene and toilets. Yeah, so many countries don't even have. So many people around the world don't even have proper toilets, right? And open defecation is very common in many parts of the world. It's a crisis of the whole humanity, friends, right? So we should actually get rid of this open defecation, right? That is the main theme of this International Day for the Toilets. And 20th is the Children's Day, World Children's Day, 20th of November. 14th November is Children's Day here in India, right? And Moon Saturn conjunction is also on the same day, 20th of November. 22nd is Alpha Monoceroid Meteor Shower. So many meteor showers in this month, right? 25th is the elimination of violence against women, as well as the Moon Jupiter conjunction. 27th is the Beaver Moon. The full moon of this month is called Beaver Moon, and also November Orionid Meteor Shower, right? November full moon is basically the Beaver Moon, and the next day, that is 28th November, is the Orionid Meteor Shower. And the 30th is remembrance for all victims of the chemical warfare. Very interesting and very important celebration, rather, chemical warfare. So yeah, we have to put an end to this chemical warfare, right? Final section of the curiosity is the opportunities for the young scientists, as well as for the PhD students, as well as all the students, the science as well as humanities students, right? Yeah, so let's quickly go through that. Indo-German DST DAD Personal Exchange Program, the call is open now, and it's also open for the postdoc or PhD students or young faculties, right? 20th November is the deadline, and through which you can actually, they support your mobility to go to the Germany, right? In a DST, DAD institution, right? Anywhere funded by the German federal government, right? And the Branko Weiss Fellowship Society in Science, a very prestigious postdoc fellowship, right? And for doing the postdoc in Switzerland, it's open. 15 January is the deadline for it. Swiss government PhD as well as postdoc scholarships are open 10th November. It's coming, right? Only 10 days from today. 10th November is the deadline. American Association for the University Women Scholarship, the open, it's still open. The deadline is 15th November. Lundbeck Foundation's postdoc call, again, that is also open right now. 1st to 10th is the November is the biggest science week, the science festival in the world, something called Berlin Science Week in the Natural History Museum of the Berlin, where I have been a few years back. So check out in case you are somewhere in an accessible place, maybe in the EU. If you're watching this from the EU, do plan a visit to the Berlin. And of course, several JR of positions and calls are open. It is there in the Facebook. As and when somebody posts it, I always approve. Right? In case you want to share some of the opportunities in our page, do post it. I will definitely approve these. These positions, these calls. Also the mentex, right? In case any of you mentors are looking forward for mentoring the students, now the mentex call is completely open. Okay. Earlier it used to have 2 calls per week, per year, of course, autumnal equinox and spring equinox. And now it is completely open. As and when anyone is interested, you can share it in our group. Okay, so yeah, do let me know that. And the book which I'm currently reading, it's a very interesting book. In case someone is interested, so one of the participant watchers, the listeners of this show, asked me, why don't you include some of the books that you're reading on every month, right? So let me share one of the very interesting book which I'm reading now is called Outlay, The Science and Art of the Longevity. This is by Peter Attia and Bill Gifford. Peter Attia basically he was a doctor, and then now he's into this longevity research, how to live longer. It's a very interesting book. I'm through the midway. Of course, I'm going to share a summary of this book, as and when I complete it. Okay. So as usual, my own book is also available. That is only 435 rupees. Life Skills, a manual of critical thinking and soft skills. So you can order through my website. The link is in the show notes for discounted price. Otherwise, you can order through the Amazon at a little bit more costly through the Prime or the booksellers, right? And please do subscribe to our show and channel, right? And this is completely an ad-free channel now, and forever, of course. It is completely ad-free. And yeah, so that's it for this month's episode of Curiosity. So basically, I'm talking to you from Lodhi Garden, one of the exciting and iconic gardens in New Delhi, right in the center of New Delhi, the Lodhi Garden. You can see that this is one of my favorite locations here, right? And yeah, so I will also do share some of the footages that I have taken in the Lodhi Garden. Yeah, so I think you might have seen that already, right? I haven't edited this episode yet. So I wish you all the very best and very productive November. And I'll see you soon in the another episode of Curiosity in December. Until then, goodbye.